Hello and welcome to this explainer. Have you ever looked at a massive, tangled business problem and felt like you're drowning in what we call spaghetti logic? You know exactly what I mean. Ideas overlapping, messy data, just totally lost in the weeds. Well, if you're someone who values efficient learning and you want to cut straight through all that noise to get to the absolute core of complex concepts, you are in the exact right place. Today, we are unpacking a premium foundational framework straight from the highest levels of management consulting. It's called MECE. We're going to break down exactly what it is, why it's basically the gold standard for structured problem solving, and how it literally transforms the way we analyze data. Say goodbye to spaghetti logic and hello to crystal clear strategy.
So how do top consultants isolate the root cause of declining profits? Let's paint a picture here. Imagine a massive retail chain suddenly discovers the profits have plummeted by a terrifying 20%. Absolute panic sets in, right? You're in the boardroom and executives are pointing fingers everywhere. Somebody's blaming the economy, someone else is pointing at the new marketing campaign, and the supply chain folks are blaming raw material costs. It's chaos. And when a massive company is bleeding cash like that, the problems are rarely simple. They're these highly complex, tangled webs of variables. You absolutely cannot just guess your way out of it, and you definitely can't afford to waste precious time chasing overlapping theories. You need rigorous, undeniable structure to find the true answer without spinning your wheels. Okay, let's dive into this hyperlogical, top-down agenda for today's explainer. First, the need for structure. Second, defining the MECE principle. Third, the age group example. And finally, the profitability issue tree.
Section 1. The need for structure and the origins of structured problem solving. Let's get right into it.
So, the ultimate answer to all that boardroom panic? It actually lies in the MECE principle. Now, MECE is an acronym, and it stands for mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. Basically, it's a grouping principle. You use it to separate a set of items into completely distinct, non-overlapping subsets. The origin story here is actually pretty fascinating. It was developed by Barbara Minto back in the 1960s during her time at McKinsey & Company. She noticed that even her absolute most brilliant MBA grads and consultants were really struggling to communicate their ideas clearly. They had incredible data, but their organization was just a total mess. Overlapping ideas, gaping holes in the logic, you name it. So Minto needed a way to force some serious intellectual discipline onto her teams. And ever since she created it, MECE has essentially become the absolute bedrock for structured problem solving in management consulting worldwide. You quite literally cannot map a business problem effectively at those highest levels without it. Section 2. Defining the MECE principle. Let's break down exactly what this acronym actually means in practice.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the crucial contrast between avoiding overlaps and preventing gaps. Let's look at the two halves. First up, mutually exclusive. This just means your information must be divided into categories that do absolutely not overlap. You are actively avoiding redundancies here. Think of it like sorting a deck of playing cards. The ace of spades cannot sit in both the hearts pile and the spades pile, right? It belongs in one distinct place. Then, on the other side, we have collectively exhaustive. This means your categories have to cover all possible options, zero gaps in your logic. If we go back to our cards and you only make piles for hearts, spades, and diamonds, well, you aren't collectively exhaustive. You totally forgot the clubs. You've left a massive gap. Put them together and these two pillars create a perfect analytical boundary. No overlaps and no gaps.
Moving on to Section 3. The age group example. Let's apply MECE to a nice, simple dataset.
Let's look at something super practical to lock this concept in. Imagine a brand's marketing team is trying to allocate $1 million ad budget. To do it right, they need to categorize their customer base by age to run targeted ads. So they set up 3 distinct brackets: 0 to 20, 21 to 40, and 41 to 60. Okay, let's test the first half of our MECE framework. Are these mutually exclusive? Yes, for sure. If a customer is 20, they go in the first bracket. If they're 21, they go in the second. No single person could possibly fit into 2 different marketing buckets. The team successfully avoided overlapping information, which is fantastic because they won't accidentally blast the exact same person with 2 different campaigns.
But hold on, here is the missing link. And honestly, this highlights a very common trap in corporate data analysis. What happens if a customer is 65 years old? Where on earth do they go? Suddenly, our whole framework completely falls apart because it utterly fails the collectively exhaustive test. Older customers are just totally unaccounted for. This happens all the time. Teams create categories that feel comprehensive, but they're actually leaking vital data. Think about it. If you miss an entire demographic like that, your denominator is completely off. Your marketing spend accuracy is ruined. Any decisions you make based on that grouping are just built on fundamentally incomplete information.
And this brilliantly illustrates the beautifully simple solution. We just add a final category, 61 plus. Boom! Now the list is 0 to 20, 21 to 40, 41 to 60, and 61 plus. Absolutely everyone on Earth is accounted for. Nobody fits into more than one bucket. We have 0 overlaps, satisfying the mutually exclusive rule. And we have 0 gaps, satisfying the collectively exhaustive rule. This data set is now perfectly MECE and totally ready for the real world. Bringing us to Section 4, the Profitability Issue Tree. This is the ultimate consulting application.
You see, the MECE principle isn't just about making neat little lists for marketing teams. It is literally the core engine behind what top-tier consultants call issue trees. These trees allow investigative teams to rigorously visualize, dissect, and break down massively complex business problems. Let's bring back our panicked retail chain from the beginning of the explainer. You remember, the one bleeding out with a terrifying 20% profit drop? Well, to find the exact root cause of that leak, without relying on wild guesswork or boardroom finger-pointing, consultants use MECE to build an issue tree. It's essentially mapping the fundamental math of the business so clearly that the problem literally has nowhere left to hide.
Let's move to and see how this builds progressively. We're going to map out the retailer's problem step by step, almost like a detective. Step 1. At the very top of our tree, profit is simply revenue minus costs. That is purely MECE. Money coming in minus money going out. There's no other mathematical factor, right? Step 2. We break down that revenue. Revenue simply equals volume. So how many items you sell, multiplied by price, what you charge for them. Again, perfectly MECE. Step 3. We break down costs. Costs equal fixed costs plus variable costs. Every single cent that retailer spends falls into one of those two buckets. Absolutely no overlaps and 0 gaps. By flowing strictly through the math of that tree, our retailer's 20% profit decline absolutely must live in one of 4 final MECE buckets. It's a mathematical certainty. Did they sell fewer winter coats this quarter, causing a massive drop in volume? Did they run way too many 50% off sales, totally destroying their price? Did their warehouse rents suddenly spike, driving up fixed costs? Or maybe the raw cotton for their shirts got way more expensive, hiking up variable costs? The answer, or whatever specific combination of answers it is, absolutely has to be sitting in one of those 4 buckets.
So the crucial point is captured perfectly in our source material here. This structure ensures that any issue affecting profit is captured without redundancy, allowing teams to isolate root causes efficiently. The benefits of this approach are just absolutely massive. It completely stops executives from arguing over their own pet theories, and it forces a purely objective, data-driven analysis. We're talking about saving teams thousands of hours of wasted effort. Now, you do have to be careful to avoid common mistakes here. A super frequent error is misclassifying data, like taking a specific marketing expense and accidentally putting it into both the fixed and variable cost buckets. That creates an overlap, muddies the waters, and completely breaks the MECE rule. But when it's done correctly, this structure forces the absolute truth straight to the surface.
Because of MECE, our struggling retail chain didn't have to guess. They systematically checked volume, price, fixed costs, and variable costs, isolated the exact leak, and fixed their business. So now that you understand the mechanics of separating information with 0 overlaps and 0 gaps, I have a question for you. How will you apply the MECE framework to efficiently deconstruct your next complex problem? Whether you're tackling a massive corporate profitability issue, diagnosing a bottleneck in your own small business, or honestly just organizing the logistics of your everyday life, remember, structure is power. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep looking for the absolute most logical way to break down the world around you.